Oh, Ryan Web Dev is saying, I know enough about PHPStan to decide that I don't want to use it. Interesting, dude. That's, maybe this live stream today will make you think twice. I'm a big fan of PHPStan. I absolutely love PHPStan, by the way. So from this tells me that we can already use PHPStan on this project. So the only thing I'm going to do is type composer require PHPStan/PHPStan, and hopefully I will require the version 2, which is the latest one. And this will require PHPStan on my project, which was super fast, by the way, just one dependency, which is quite nice. The next step I want to do is create a PHPStan neo.configuration file, and to do that I can simply type a new file. I'm going to call this file phpstan.neon. Okay, now within this configuration file I'm going to try to do what I think I should do here, which is literally type parameters. Obviously I want to use the latest version. Let's go to the level max. Exactly. So level max, but also pads, and the pads will be so far source and index.php, which is the only files I have. Now, something really cool about PHPStan is that if you were to have a problem, let's say you forget a die. I think a die is a good example. I think PHPStan will complain about this. Let's type vendor bin PHPStan. There we go. So without even running my code, so I don't type php index.php to run my code, just by typing vendor bin PHPStan, he's already complaining that I have on live 11 an unreachable statement, which is, you know, the code above always terminates thanks to this die hello world. But one of the other examples is if I were to return something which is not a string, potentially, if I were to return 1, for example, this will also, you know, PHPStan will also complain about this because we have a mismatch in terms of types. So the function say hello world should return string but returns int. Now, this may seem a little bit too obvious for you because we are running this on one file only, but imagine that you have a full project, like a full Laravel project with hundreds of files. Imagine having this friend, call it PHPStan, that just detects any single problem for you, which is quite nice. And let's now use this person class. Let's type something like person equals to new person John Doe, and let's echo, but let's try to access to a property which doesn't exist, something like echo age. Obviously PHP Storm is already complaining, but again, we are watching this file right now. Imagine having hundreds of files. You don't want to go each file individually. You want to have this tool that just tells you that something is wrong. So if I go to my console right now, I type vendor bin PHPStan, and hopefully will complain that we are trying to access to a property which doesn't exist. You know what I mean? So obviously it just complained about that. So it's just saying that on the line 11, I'm trying to access to undefined property age. So I don't have an age on this person object, so there is a problem here, undeniably. And the second thing is complaining is that because I don't have an age, I don't know what exactly is being returned, which is probably a mixed, and I cannot convert the mixed to a string so I can echo it out, which is quite cool. So this is literally failing. You could cable this on a CI, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, it's one of the best things that have ever happened to PHP, to be honest. You know, we have revolutionary points on the Laravel, on the PHP ecosystem. Obviously Laravel is huge on the PHP ecosystem, but we have also PHP unit, you know, we have also some of the other tooling like Past, Pine, PHP CS Fixer, and more. But PHPStan is undeniably one of the most important tools today on the PHP ecosystem. Okay. So obviously here we have seen an example with properties, but this extends a little bit to other things like metas potentially. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? If we have like an array like this, what is the problem with this function return type? The only thing we are saying is that we are returning an array. So we are not explicit about what exactly are we returning, okay? So if I run PHPStan, we'll probably complain because we are doing the following. On the line 7, we are returning an array. But on this type array, we forgot to say two things. We forgot to say what is the key of the array and what is the value of the array. Okay? The only thing we are saying is that we are returning an array, but we are not being explicit about what is the information within the array. Typically, when you can put information within that type, it's called a generic type. Okay? So if I can do something like this, come here and type the following. The return type of this function will be an array where the key, like the key of the array, will be always integers and the value will be always a string. Okay, if I do this, PHPStan will no longer complain. Okay, so this is what I like to call a generic type, because you can specify you can elaborate a little bit more on the information of that array. You can go even further with this. You can literally say, I'm returning an array where the key 0, this is like how far you can go with PHPStan, by the way, where the key 0 is logic BR, the key 1 is this one, and the key 2 is this one. This is how far you can go with PHPStan, by the way. Okay, this is probably a little bit too much already. I wouldn't do this because most of the times the information we are returning is totally dynamic, but you can go this further with PHPStan. You can literally say how exactly your array is shaped. How about associative arrays? So that's why like this kind of return types like this, where you can specify the shape, are so powerful. Because if we were to return something like this, what you can do, assuming that both the names are in the services are dynamic, but not the keys, something you can do is literally this. You can type that the names will also be an array where the key is an integer and the value is string, but the services are going to be an array as well where the key is an integer and the value is a string. You know, this is why array shapes are so powerful, by the way, because you can literally be explicit about everything you are returning. You know, this is assuming, by the way, this little thing is assuming that all of this content within names is dynamic. It will be fetched from a database potentially, but the names and the service keys will always exist. And I can also type vendor bean PHPStan, and this would not complain, hopefully. But if I do something like, let's say here, ages, potentially, this will PHPStan will complain about this without even running the code. As you can see, ages offset or ages key does not exist on the given shape. You know what I mean? By the way, if you don't know what this is array destructuring. You know, not a lot of people know about this, but you can literally fetch an associative array and then deconstruct that associative array into two given variables, which is very, very helpful and powerful.